right, welcome everybody. How you all doing? Great, awesome. Thanks for joining us here in the amphitheater. My name is Jason Hitchcock. I'm going to do a live demonstration. This is my first one. It's going to be pretty exciting. Yeah, so I'll be doing a flame working demonstration. I have examples right here in front of you. So I'll be doing seahorses with the it's kind of like the seaweed. It will later be attached to this base later on once it's all finished up and cooled down, but I will be demonstrating at least this part. Helen over here, she'll be helping me out. Helen Tegler, yeah.
Hi, everybody.
Thank you.
Super excited to see this come together, and I'm going to be fielding questions and such. So if you have any questions, whether you're online, you can talk to Amanda, and she'll field those to me, or if you're in-house here, just get my attention. I'd love to chat with you folks. But for the most part, we're going to let Jason be star of the show with his narration and the activity on the torch. So thanks so much for joining us here today.
Yeah, thank you, Helen. Thank you. All right, yeah, we're going to jump right in. So the way to get this started in flame working, if you're new to it, well, it starts with natural gas or propane and oxygen. So that oxygen is really running this, getting that temperature up a lot higher. This glass that I'm using, they come in rods just like these, and then when we get it molten hot to get that orange color, well, we can just change the shape as we go. So getting that oxygen, this torch is turned up all the way, and it's about 4,000 degrees Fahrenheit, the hottest part. So you can already see that orange glow into the glass, and I can start to move it. So this is all just going to be a solid form. I sometimes work hollow as I go, but for this sculpture that I have, well, we're just going to work solid here. So I'm going to attach these two rods together, start to build up some mass. What I'm going to work on first are the seaweed parts. So I'm going to add a little bit of color, but first I just need to build up some material. And by doing that, well, as soon as I attach these two rods together, I can start to kind of build up that mass by slowly and ever so slightly starting to push my hands together, start to put that material together as I go. So using a lot of gravity in this demo kind of helps me out along the way. So as I'm kind of having it on this angle, if you see me at this angle, that's just the way I want the glass to flow. And I'm really just using my right hand to kind of support and also just push into that. So it starts to build that up. And I'll add some color here in a little bit. So I got some colors here on the table. We got agua azul. I'll be using some amber purple as well. And one of my favorites, other than amber purple, will be adventuring green. So the agua will be for the seaweed. And then the amber purple and adventuring green will be for the seahorses. So I have one seahorse that's already prepped up, which is staying warm in the annealer, which is right over there next to me. And that's staying warm at 1050 degrees Fahrenheit. So I got the material I need to do this. So I'm going to get this color ready. I'm going to let this cool down so it stiffens up. And I'm going to do a technique that they call color coiling. So wrapping the color around this. It also just gives it a nice clean blanket. So it's a good example right here in front of you, if you want to check that out. So I'll do a mixture of that. And you can kind of see the amber purple and what I'll be doing on the other one right over here. So those will be for the seahorses. So kind of like a mix of those two, kind of just put together with the colors. All right. So I start to attach this on. So this will pretty much act as like a really hot paintbrush, if you think about it that way. Just kind of applying that heat right on the rod. That's the only thing I want to move. And as I'm going around, you might see that I'm overlapping it just a little bit, just because I want a nice clean blanket. I don't want any of that clear to seep through. And this is, I like to do this because one, I don't have to melt down this whole color rod. This actually saves a lot of material in the long run. So there's a lot of ways you can add color. You can do stripes, you can do dots, things like that. This I kind of get, nice consistency all the way around. So it covers it up as I go. So I'll work my way all the way to the front. All right, so once I get to the end here, it gets really thin. Well, that 4,000 degree flame can just rip right through that glass. So now I got a nice color blanket all the way around. But first things first, I just want to melt everything out, smooth it out. I'm actually going to use these crimps right here. I'm actually going to flatten that out and then stretch that material out. So when glass gets hot, well, all it wants to do is become a ball, pretty much. It's really attracted to itself. And, well, I'm going to flatten it out to stretch it out to kind of keep that design that I have. And the type of glass I'm working with, if you're curious about that, it's called borosilicate glass. And it's very similar to the Pyrex family. And I'm sure we all probably have used this in our days, in our kitchen as well. So Pyrex has a higher melting point. So it's actually standard to use this type of glass on a torch. So it melts around 3,500 degrees Fahrenheit. So this torch does the job. And it also doesn't have that thermal shock that other glass has. So with that meaning, they added a little bit of boron to the mixture. So there's a lot of glass out there, and there's a little ingredient that they mix. So all glass have like their certain properties to them, their ingredients that make them all different. So the difference between this glass, they add a little boron, so it actually is a temperature-tolerant material. So, you know, when you're at home, even your Pyrex fan, you can put it in your oven, you can take it out of your oven. It's completely fine. Same with this type of glass. So as I'm working with it, just keep it in mind, as I'm heating up certain parts and other parts are getting cold, you know, I don't have to worry about that cooling down too fast, cracking and breaking, things like that. It's a wonderful material, one of my favorites. So I got this all melted in, it's all smoothed out. So I'm gonna go ahead and smush this down. It's not perfectly round, that's okay. We're gonna be stretching it out anyway. So here we go, so straight up and down. I can use my crimps, smush that right out. So I want to keep all that heat in there. I don't want to lose all that. And I want to attach another handle to stretch this out. All right. So the glass is always going to tell me when it's ready to go. So as I'm doing this, as I do this technique of stretching all this out, it's really kind of like a tug and pull. So I'm going to be kind of like a price check. It's not ready yet. And I'm really looking for really the movement of the glass, also the color of the glass. So I want that orange color to be consistent all the way through. So it's pretty much already doing its thing. This is my favorite part. So just getting that heat a little bit more, really stretch it out. I'm just going to let it flow in a direction. I don't really have a set design with this kind of project that I'm working on with these sculptures. I kind of just let the glass flow because it's in the sea, it's organic, kind of keep it that way. So with these, I kind of don't, that have that final design. I kind of let the glass kind of tell me, you know, when it's flowing that one direction, I'm like, oh, okay, I can bend that a little bit more that way. I'm gonna get a little final bend at the top here. And I'm pretty happy with that. So there we go, we got one. So I'm gonna take this off of here. So I'll make another one here in a little bit. So just focusing my heat right at the top. There we go. And before I put it away, the one technique I love doing for this whole sculpture, keeping everything in place, kind of building it up, kind of like a little puzzle piece, is doing these bridges. So these bridges, I'm going to attach this little bit of glass to the bottom and to the top. So as I'm attaching pieces, I don't have to worry about things moving around. Pretty much becomes a support system, if you want to call it that. And it's a wonderful technique that I actually learned when I went to college. So I learned how to flamework and also blow glass at Salem Community College. So I've been working with glass for about 8 years. But I remember trying to build like a tree. That was like one of my first things I ever tried to do. And then, well, as I was attaching branches, things like that, things started to move around. And I asked my teacher, which is Amy Lemaire, and she taught me this bridging system where everything, once you attach these temporary handles, basically, they can kind of keep everything from wanting to move around. And at the end, well, these all come off. So it kind of like reveals that true piece. So this is the first one. I'm going to pop this away, keep it nice and warm into the annealer. And then we'll prep that second one. So same thing here. I'm just going to get this one ready to go. I prepped it up earlier so we can kind of move along.
So while Jason is getting the second one prepped, do we have any questions so far here in the audience? Yes? Yeah, one of the nice things about this method and this type of glass is that, one, you don't have to have the whole thing hot. If you're looking at soft glass and you've seen one of our blowing demonstrations, you have to pretty much keep everything hot while you're working because of that shrinkage. But with this, you don't necessarily need to because it's not as susceptible to that expansion contraction, so you can put intense heat in one area and keep it cool in another. But glass in general, it's not really going to hold that heat. It wants to dissipate the heat, so it's not going to end up being hot where he's holding it. But it does get a little tricky if you don't keep track of what you've had in the flame and you set something down and you grab it in the wrong place. If it's not glowing, it's kind of hard to identify that. So that is a common way to get a little burn. But in general, he's got himself really well organized. He's got all of his rods laid out in a nice fashion so that he always puts the hot end down away from him. And you just set up those kind of safe working habits and you have less likelihood of getting bit by the glass. Great question, though. Any other curiosities? Yes? Yeah, so adding a second piece of glass. Now, tools often cool glass as you're working with them, and flame working traditionally does use just a lot of rods and tubes rather than having extra tools. You know, he's only got so many hands, so he usually holding on to those other rods, you've just accumulated the glass onto the end, so you can use that to help stretch without maybe losing your grip or dropping that piece. And there might be some methods that people would grab another tool. It really is a personal preference, I think. I don't know if Jason wants to say anything to that, but for the most part, I think methodologies are developed for your comfort level as well. So it's just he's probably more comfortable using another rod rather than trying to fit another tool into the equation.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of tools for this project, really. It's kind of just shaping it using that one gravity stretching and kind of letting the glass kind of flow in direction. But Helen.
Yes.
Sorry, but I might be losing oxygen, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
I will go and
yeah,
check on your oxygen.
I see the gas kind of turning up. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sorry, folks. Usually this process goes a little bit faster, but it seems in my torch I'm losing oxygen. Oh no, that's all right. We have backups of these oxygen tanks in the back, so we'll just be on standby for a second. But yeah, talking about the tools and things like that, you'll kind of see as I'm putting this together, it's really kind of like a free design with it, kind of keeping it organic. There's going to be some tools to get some of the texture, so like the fins, if you see that, or ridges or things like that. If I want to, I have those crimps ready to go. But yeah, hopefully we get some oxygen in here. Well, we'll shut that off for right now. But we can just talk for a second, though. That's totally fine. That happens on your first demo all the time. Yeah, we're here. So I'm going to check with the torch as well as we go along, just to make sure. I know Helen's on it. Thanks, Helen. Oh, I hear it. There it is. Oh, we're back in action right now. Yeah. All right. Yay for oxygen. Thanks, Ellen. Appreciate it. There's always something for a first demo, right? Kind of keeps you on your feet, right? Yeah. Awesome. All right. Yeah, sorry about that, folks. We'll be okay. So yeah, here we go. We're going to get that second one going here. And usually, yeah, that heat, that oxygen, yeah, super, super important to get that heat into that glass. Also, with the heat as well, you're probably wondering I'm not wearing any gloves or things like that. So the way these are made, we get them from different distributors around the world, this type of glass. They usually come in like 4 feet sections, and then we cut them down to be just like working size. But they're poor conductors of heat the way they are made. So they come in all different diameters, as you can see as I'm working through. But where my hands are, perfectly comfortable. Even with the torch, with that oxygen, I mean, I can have my hand this close, and it's pretty much like a hot cup of coffee right there. But also, as you go along, you kind of get used to that heat and everything along the way. Not necessarily are times where you have to wear gloves or things like that. Unless you have like a huge piece, it can radiate a lot of heat off, but something this size, not so much. So, but yeah, just wanted to melt in that color, get it all nice and smoothed out, and then we'll squish this down, and then yeah, we'll get that shape going. This is like my most exciting time is building this into a kind of like a puzzle piece. As I go along the demo, things just start to build up. You start to put pieces and pieces together. It all just really comes together along the way. And especially when I remove all those bridges, because I have to bridge everything from the seaweed to the seahorses, making sure those don't move around. Because, well, all glass has to be one piece of glass in the end. So when I'm attaching these, they're all permanent connections. They're all in there solid. As I go along. It took me a couple years to really get this kind of design down. I've been working with glass for about 8 years. So at first, these definitely didn't look like these at all. But, you know, I kind of like slowly got redefined. Also kind of getting like the simplicity out of it as well. I used to do like a lot of all these different details, and I was like, I just kind of want to keep it, you know, super simple. And this is kind of these are the recent ones that we have. Do we have a question online?
So someone was asking how long you've been doing flame working
Oh.
and what got you interested in glass making as a craft.
Wonderful. How did I get into glass blowing? Why I wanted to get into glass blowing? Yeah, so I've been doing it for 8 years, and I started going to Salem Community College. So I didn't know glass making was a thing. You know, in high school, I did a lot of art, of painting, working with pottery, things like that. And I didn't know what to do for college at the point until I met somebody. And if it wasn't for them, I don't know. I probably wouldn't be making glass. I don't think. They told me they were graduating from Salem Community College, and I was like, oh, that's fascinating. And they said they were graduating blowing glass, and I was like, what do you mean? And they're like, yeah, I blow glass. So I was like, okay. So I went to go check it out, and it was just like walking in here. It's just like a huge factory, torches everywhere, furnaces everywhere, and I was hooked. I pretty much signed up immediately. So I didn't know about glass until I went to college for it. So yeah, it's a good question. Also, hello everybody that's on the interwebs. Thanks for joining us. I didn't forget about you. All right, so I'm gonna go and attach this on the end here. So getting that heat really soaked in. So I'm gonna attach that on. Just really looking for that nice even color all the way through. There's actually an artist that kind of got me into this kind of movement in the glass. David Colton, he actually does this in hollow forms, believe it or not. We had a piece of his in our gallery upstairs. And when I saw his piece, I was pretty amazed of like what you could do of moving that glass around. He got so hot because there was a 2300 we had, which we had like some events back in the day, and he was the guest artist. And I watched his demo, and just the way he can like make these shapes and the bends, it was kind of like a graffiti look. It really inspired me. So yeah, shout out to him to getting like these designs. It took a little while to kind of get the right heats and everything. That came with like some time as I went along, and kind of just getting like my own feel for it and like my look that I wanted to go for, and just the fluidity, because I'm kind of picturing this. It's like, okay, what would this look like, in the ocean if it was just still for 1 second? What would that look like? And this is kind of my thought through it as I go. So really kind of just going free with it, free hand. But watching David Colton, that was a pretty neat treat to see. All right, so we got our second one. So I'm going to keep this handle on this side. This will be the base where it will be attached to the other one. So this handle will come off of here. So I'm just focusing my heat at the bottom. So I'm just going to try to strip off all that clear glass, kind of just clean that up a bit. There we go. All right, so this can hang out for just a second. I'm going to go grab the other one. This is the exciting part. This is the fun part, where we got to decide where this is going to go. Kind of like that. Yeah. So again, freehand, it's kind of like I have that plan, but this is the fun part. It's kind of like, all right, where can these go? You kind of mix it up in different places. Even if you make like 10 of these, what could you do with all that? So this is where we attach. So this is where that bridging really comes into play. So if I heated this one up, it's going to start to move around. Don't want that happening. But this I really want to attach. So I'm applying heat on both surfaces, because I want that glass to fuse together. I want it to flow together, to be all one piece of glass. So this is what we got to do. Let's heat up both surfaces. The glass just flows together. So just going to hold it there for 1 second.
We had a great question out in the audience of why you would add oxygen to your flame. So in general, oxygen will make things hotter. If you just have propane or natural gas burning on their own, of course they'll get hot, but it's the introduction of that oxygen that really boosts the ability to get the high temperatures needed to melt this glass, and really any glass as a general rule. Great question.
Yeah, it's a really good question.
So I think then the way that he's constructing this, you can see how it's also really helpful to have not another tool involved. He's able to attach the glass piece and then melt that part away, or use the residual that's on that on that secondary rod to either add or take away a little bit as you work as well. Where if you had a tool that you grabbed the glass with, then you'd have a chunk of glass you had to remove and clean up for that. So I think it's just another time saver as well.
Yep, so I'm going ahead and bridging this right up. And I'm going to focus my time just on that connection. Just want to smooth out that glass just a little bit. I connected it on there, but there are what we call like acute angles. So it's almost like those dark spots when you heat it up. It's almost those crevices. Those aren't really being melted all the way through. There's just a lot of stress in that connection point. And right now I'm kind of just focusing a small flame just to make sure those are melted in, smoothed out. So it really kind of just looks like it's all one piece. So this torch is, it's kind of like a 2-in-1 torch, which is nice. It can do any scale of work. Really, when it comes to flame working, we're working more like intricate designed work, not really like heavy pieces. We're not gathering up all this glass, but really we can work any scale. So like what I'm doing right here, I can build off of this. I can go as big as I want to have like a huge, tall form or wide form. Even with that borosilicate glass, I don't have to worry about thermal shock. I'm able to kind of focus my heat and attention, and I have to keep everything warm the whole entire time. But yeah, this torch, you can really work really small and also really big. So it's a great beginner torch. This is the torch I learned with at Salem Community College, and I loved it ever since. And I even got my own. I got my own little setup at home, which is nice because I just got pretty addicted to it. After college, I moved to the beach, and I started to really make these sea creatures, getting into that because I was just kind of like in that environment, you would say. And trying to watch a lot of YouTube videos like we're all doing right now, kind of getting the technicality of those steps and things like, okay, how do I make a seahorse? I kind of just watched demos or looked at pictures, kind of got myself in that groove of like what to do. I'm just going to pop this away. This is all set. We can start to work on the seahorses now. But yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. Super exciting, yeah.
Yeah, someone had a question too of like, what skill level would you consider making a seahorse from like beginner to advanced?
Skill level, what kind of skill level they need to be to get started? For me, I like to, I like to just jump into things. I don't know if that really is a great answer for that. But for me, I really just wanted to learn how to I started out making sea turtles. So sea turtles were my first kind of sea creature, and then I was like, okay, I want to do other creatures. So it's really just going for it, I'd say. Kind of like just, you know the steps to certain things. This is kind of like, okay, how can I make this seahorse? And I'll run through the steps right now, but it definitely took some time.
One thing I think it's really fantastic, we're in such an age of communication that you can just sit for hours and look up artists from all over the world and watch what they do and be able to learn from that. And that's a relatively new concept in the world of creative glassmaking like this. So I want to also remind everybody that this is one of our Bring the Heat live streams. So of course, obviously we're online, but this will eventually be archived on our website. And we have thousands of hours of visiting artists, special programming, all sorts of amazing things that have been put onto our website. So even us as an organization has become one of those hubs of information for people to come to and be able to learn and build those skills. And of course, having lots of classes and workshops that are also available. This is one of the greatest places to come and learn and take those classes. So check out online, check our social media. We post a lot of things. We have a lot of Bring the Heat events coming up throughout the fall and the spring. We have our You Design It program coming up this fall. We just had our first one this past weekend. So lots of potential online activity for you throughout the cold winter months. So tune in and continue to learn.
Yeah, I definitely utilize my time quite a bit online, for sure. Almost, I guess I could call out the Torch Talk on Facebook. That's a great one. A lot of people, we kind of really just help each other out. We support each other through flame working, even glass blowing as well. It's I like to say, because we're one in Corning, and there's a bunch of glass everywhere. There's the glass artists everywhere. We're kind of like a community. So Torch Talk was also a little bit of a community feel. So if you're trying to figure something out, or have a question about something, like we were all like everybody was there. Even when I was in school, I really sometimes I just sat next to somebody, just talked to them, got to know them a little bit, and really they would walk through the steps. Yeah, it was really nice. So we definitely utilized each other, and also YouTube. When I was at the beach, I think I was like the only. A lot of people were like, "What is glass? Like that's glass?" And like, yeah. I was pretty much like the only glass artist there, and I was just doing my own thing. But the whole time I was really utilizing YouTube of kind of getting those techniques down. And the first seahorses, I look back and I'm like, oh no, for sure. But when I moved here in Corning, I met some great artists, like even working here, taking classes, and yeah, they've been like a huge help along the way. So when I moved here, I feel like my skills and kind of tweaking my abilities and like kind of tweaking designs and like, different techniques, they've definitely skyrocketed, I think. Just, yeah, kind of talking to other artists that work here, being with them, working with them, things like that, watching like how they do a certain move, things like that. So it's kind of like just kind of surrounding yourself with glass. And, I've been pretty addicted about it, so I've always wanted to learn. I'm always learning as I go, even making these seahorses. I'm like, okay, what can I do differently? And these seahorses actually have like a little bit of like a mermaid tail. And I just added that on one day, and I decided I loved it. I was like, I'm just going to keep doing this. So, yeah, those mermaid tails. These seahorses are kind of like my version of seahorses. It's like not a little bit of realism, but also like a little bit of fantasy put into it. So I kind of like that about the glass world. It's kind of like you start to create your own vision into this material, and then you just go crazy with it. So, yeah, we have another question though?
Yeah, someone who is also an artist says that when they get into a project, they kind of get into this like free-flowing state of mind. Do you have that sort of same experience when you're working on something?
Yeah. So, yeah, when I'm working, it's like me, the torch, and the glass. It's super therapeutic to me, where I'm just like in my space. I'm in like a whole new world. Yeah, I definitely can relate to that for sure. That's awesome. Yeah, someone online was asking like if they kind of get that feeling as well. I certainly do. I can lose track of time at this torch. But yeah, very therapeutic for sure. So yeah, we're going to work on the seahorse right now. This is the next step into this demo here. So I added that color, which is adventurine green. So a great example is the seahorse body that you see right in the middle there. So this rod right here, if you look closely, I don't know if you can see, it just looks like it's a green rod. It also has a little bit of a sparkle to it. It's very nice. But actually changes, kind of like getting some iridescent, even like some blues, some greens in there. And they call this kind of like a striking color. And I'll bring out the other seahorse in a little bit so you can actually see what it's going to look like after it's annealed. So the ways they get these colors is using different metal oxides into the mixture. And there's a lot of chemistry, a lot of science that really goes with it as you go. And when you buy these colors, they usually tell you if it's going to be a striking color or not. And the striking color gives it kind of like that tie-dye effect, where it brings out those different metals to the surface. So you get those different tones of colors throughout the whole piece. They don't necessarily change with a super hot flame. They actually change a little bit when the glass is cooled down. So when this is in the annealer, it's at 1050, and that'll actually, when it gets colder, it starts to actually bring out those different metals to the surface. So that's like the best way I can explain it. That makes kind of sense to me, but yeah, definitely a lot of science goes with it as well. But yeah, to make the tail, this is what we're going to do first. So I just start from one end. I'm going to use a different smaller rod, and I'm focusing my heat right on the bottom, using a little bit of gravity to start to elongate that. And I'll go ahead and attach this on here. So pretty ready right now. So it's really just getting the right heat will go a long way. And if it's too cold, it's not really going to stretch too much. Or if it's colder in some spots, that part's not going to really stretch out. So I want to get a nice even heat all the way around. And I don't want to pull too soon. So getting the right heat. So letting it cool for just a second. But yeah, now we're ready to go. So just stretching it out to a nice length, twirling that around. So I'm going to stop right there. I'm happy with that. doing moves like this, I found it's kind of like a one and done. Usually when I try to get this down, I couldn't get it a few times. I would go back and try to bend it in some ways. Sometimes it was too thin, it would just collapse. But after a while, you get that heat down, that feel down, that muscle memory down, and that move is, it's just fluid at that point. All right, so just straightening that out. So I don't need to heat up so much for the head or the neck of the seahorse. So I'm going to just tone this down just a little bit, focus my heat on the top part for this seahorse. Give that a stretch. I actually do a little bit of clear glass for the head for the seahorse. I started to do color throughout the whole thing, but I felt like it kind of took it away. For me, I really do like the look of clear glass on pieces. Just so, like, you look at it and you're like, oh, okay, that's glass. You got that clear look in there. So I started to do that for the head. And also, with that clear, it kind of like reflects that color all the way through. It's kind of like a little window of that. So I'm just going to work on the neck of the seahorse for this. So I'm just going to get this started. So I can focus my heat a little bit farther down. That clear can heat up a lot faster. Sometimes the colors are a little bit more dense. So that clear heats up fast. This color, since it's like an opaque, kind of takes a little while to get the heat in there. Just got a little bit more. We're almost there. There we go. And then just kind of folding it right over. All right, so just holding it there for a second, letting it cool down. So I'm going to detach this rod. Get this off of here. We don't need that one anymore. Just cleaning that glass up. I swear I'm not a messy flame worker. So I want to get a little bit more curve. So this is like when tools come in handy. So there we go. So that color, yeah, it looks just green throughout the whole piece because I'm using a super hot flame. But as I go through, you'll probably see some parts trying to change as I use a colder part of the flame. Even that outside diameter has a colder part to the flame. So yeah, I utilize this flame quite a bit. So hot to cold, things like that. Especially working a little bit smaller, I don't need such intense heat as I go along. But yeah, we'll start to work on the head here. So I'm going to ball up a little bit of material. So pretty much creating the jaw for like the horse, basically. So easy way to kind of ball up some material is just using a little bit of gravity, having that glass just fall back on itself. And yeah, we can just hang out with the seahorse for just a little bit. I really fell in love with flame working and just this type of glass because, yeah, I didn't have to worry about thermal shock as much. But I do also do some demos here. So I work both for the hot glass team and flame working for the demonstrations, which happen upstairs. So 2 different types of glass. So it was a little tricky kind of getting to learn 2 types of glass, one that has thermal shock, one that doesn't. So some days, you know, if I was blowing glass a little bit more and I came back to flame working, I would just be so thrown off, be keeping this warm the whole time. And I was like, oh yeah, it's boro. Or if I'm working with soft glass, I would get so cold it would sometimes crack and break. But as you go along, you kind of just get the use of that material. It's just that muscle memory. All right, so I got that. So now I'm going to attach this on here. So this is a permanent connection. So yeah, heating up both surfaces here to have that fused together. Just getting the right amount of heat. So getting it on there for now. really make sure that glass is flowing together just a little bit. All right. So now I just need to focus my heat on just the nose of the seahorse. So letting it cool down for just a second. And once I have that heat, I can go and stretch that out. So just really getting the timings and the heats right goes a long way. If I pull too soon, it'd be too thin. All right. So I will finish up the nose there in just a second, but I will bridge this as well. So I will start to add the other details to this piece. So starting to do the fins, the horse's mane, things like that. So yeah, bridging just kind of just goes a long way, helping me out throughout the whole process, make sure nothing moves around, especially like adding the horse's mane. That neck is, it's pretty thin. If I make those connections on there, make sure they're permanent, the neck can start to move around. And they started to do that in the beginning, and then I figured out, well, I can just bridge it, and then they can just stay still.
And some of those hidden secrets that you never really know when you're looking at a final piece. All the prep and the hidden things that go into actually making the piece a success. Because I remember when I first started to try to flame work as well, I would see these finished pieces, and I knew how glass flowed, and I knew how to heat it, and so it all made sense that you'd be able to put things together. But there was always these missing steps that you couldn't, that really made the difference in that success, and that bridging seems to be definitely one of those secret techniques.
Yeah. Does anybody have any questions out there? We got some questions.
Yeah. So it's not so much the heat that you're seeing, but glass as a material. The light tends to travel through it and come out the other end. It's how fiber optics make it possible because of the way that the glass translates that light. They are developing new glasses that reflect it out the other areas, and so it's all in the formula, the chemistry, the way it's treated, so they can change those qualities. But most glass, it will end up just traveling down that length, and then the glow that you're seeing is just the light coming out the other end. Yeah, I don't know that that's necessarily the case, the infrared. I think it's just an optical thing that's happening, so you wouldn't feel any heat coming from that light. Yeah.
Was you wondering about the glasses?
No, it's just noticing that the ends of the irons, or the ends of the rods, will tend to glow. And it's just kind of reflecting the light from the torch traveling down through that glass.
I like to call it the lightsaber.
The lightsaber?
Just goes all the way through. Kids love that. Kids love that. All right. So yeah, just getting that fin on there. I guess it's just... So just going to give this a little bit of a point at the end. So we're going to work with amber purple right now. This will be for all the details going around. You can see a little bit of that color change happening with the amber purple. That's also going to be a wonderful striking colors of the ambers, the purples, kind of like the mixture of that going throughout the whole piece. It's one of my favorite colors to work with. This one's not too stiff either. It's very fluid, very close to like clear glass because it kind of just looks like a clear rod from right here. But just the colors it gives off is just really beautiful. So it's one of my favorites.
When traditionally, borosilicate glasses came in a pretty limited color palette, but I feel like in the last decade or so, there have really been some amazing colors coming into that community, being
Yeah.
made by the community a lot as well.
Definitely. Yeah, I feel like it's almost never ending when it comes down to those colors. So there's always a new color out there. It's like we go shop when it comes down to flame workers and we go shopping. It's, you know, we get the next new thing. We get the next big thing. You know, it comes out. You know, social media. We follow some color companies that make these and sell these. And sometimes, if you're not there, if you're not on it too fast, it's just gone. It's just sold out, and you're like, "Are you kidding me?" And then you have to wait for it to be back in stock. And yeah, this amber purple, luckily, they have like a limited or unlimited stock. Well, we'll cross our fingers with that, but it's one of my favorites. I hope they never run out of amber purple.
Yeah, so many of these companies are pretty small cottage industries sort of sizes, so they'll make a limited amount of that glass, and it takes them a while to get another product out and ready to go. Is there some other questions that we had out there?
So I'm starting to work on the horse's mane here. So kind of just heating it up and stretching it out to kind of get that design. And it cools down pretty quick, so like my working time, even when the glass gets thinner, it cools down faster. And to get these points, what I'm doing is just using that colder spot I was talking about before, that kind of like outside diameter. So, you know, all glass, like I was talking about, is really attracted to itself, so all it wants to do is ball itself up in the hottest part. But if you really know where the heats are and everything, to get those nice little points, even if you're making like a figurine, like making fingertips or something like that, it's kind of utilizing where that heat is and knowing where it is to get those points right there. So it's pretty tricky, but as you keep practicing, yeah, it does get easier.
Now we had a great question out in the audience here asking, well, these are really lovely sculptures. We do a lot of sculptures for our demonstrations here at the Corning Museum of Glass. But what are some other things that you can make with this particular glass?
Ooh, yeah.
And you're kind of delving into some of the vessel making and things I saw recently.
I am. Are we able to? Yeah, so I have a class that's happening as well. And really functional forms, I guess I would put it that way. For professional use. Yep. But functional forms I've been really getting into, and it's a huge thing that's kind of happening with the glass community. Yeah, so going into hollow tubing, making a lot of functional forms like that, I've really loved doing that. I have a class that's happening. That's a 10-week class. We just had our first one this past Tuesday. And that will, go on for 9 more weeks. And then I have another weekend class teaching the same thing. So those classes, you can take them. You can go on our website, check those out. But I'm teaching functional forms in those classes. So it's kind of like an intermediate, but something I really love enjoying. There's a lot of art that goes into it, as well as kind of like the technicality of everything along the way. So that's pretty exciting. Yeah, that's a great question. For sure.
And Salem Community College is one of the only places in the country to even learn scientific glass in general. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So, a lot of laboratories in big colleges will have their own small glass studio to be able to make the beakers and all the very complicated forms that come together with that. And so that is part of the offering of that university program, kind of shifting from both scientific and functional ware to sculptural and kind of bringing in different levels. But it's pretty exciting to see those changes and those shifts and all the amazing things that's been done with this material. When you start to scale up and start to work with beakers and some of the distilling equipment and things like that, they might even have a big lathe. So you would have very large-scale tubes and lathes that would turn that glass as you're bringing torches into it and using tools to squeeze in constrictions and widen open far ends on it. So I imagine there's probably some YouTube videos, like most places. You could find some really exciting images of that as well. But it is kind of amazing to see the scale that you can work with borosilicate glass. And because of that ability for it to be heated in one area and not in another, you can really scale up pretty big. I remember maybe a decade ago, there was a few people that started making big goblets, and then the goblet makers in soft glass were looking at them, and we're all like, well, why aren't they just making it in the hot shop? Why are they doing it on the torch? Why is it so much harder? But it's kind of a similar but very different technique, and each one has very unique qualities to the way that they're constructed and the way that the finished products even look. So we are in just such an exciting age, I think, for glass, and so many exciting, not only in the creative side, but also the technical side, the Corning Corporation developing all sorts of amazing technical glasses as well.
Definitely, yeah. Yeah, it's a growing thing, and it's not slowing down. That's for sure. Not slowing down. Believe it or not, I actually didn't take the scientific course at Salem Community College. I was actually intimidated by it. I was pretty nervous and scared. I just stuck with the art form.
Yeah.
But if I were to go back, I would take the scientific in a heartbeat, because what they can do is just fascinating. Just fascinating.
And the tolerances necessary to create some of those apparatuses are just mind-blowing. Yeah.
Yeah, they are. Yeah. Upstairs in our near our kind of like Corel section, right across from that, they talk about borosilicate glass. So if you want to check that out after this, you can. But yeah, it was first used for scientific apparatus. So yeah, making those test tubes, beakers, things like that. And then throughout the years, they also found it was great for the art form. So that kind of just like blew up. And then ever since, even today, like even making those functional forms, things like that, it's been a huge thing. And it's a wonderful art form. There's so many talented artists out there that really push the limits of this material. They're really inspiring, for sure. Yeah, I would definitely check that out. We just had a presentation. Eric Goldschmidt, which is another flame worker, he's upstairs, and some other artists. Micah Evans, Earl Jr., and this girl that I actually didn't know. Her name is Nicole Berger. She was on that presentation as well. But they kind of just talk about that experience, where things are at right now in the pipe making world, I would say. And it's a wonderful presentation. I would definitely recommend going to watch it. Everything on there, you can do all those live presentations. You can all see those on our YouTube channel. But I enjoyed tuning in on that one. That was wonderful. Kind of seeing their side of the story, things like that. So very, very inspiring.
Yeah, it's a series called Connected by Glass, and we've got a lot of really lovely content that's been added to that over the last couple years. So definitely look that up on our YouTube channel and see a lot of resources.
All right, so here we go. We're going to start to connect these. But first things first, I'm going to do a little price check. I need to know where these are going to go. So I'd like to hold them up to see where they are going to go. I'm picturing one on this side and one on the other side. I don't know, should they face each other or be facing in one direction?
It seems a little bit more community-oriented to be facing each other, right?
Yeah, what do y'all think out there? What are y'all facing? Kind of like this one right here?
Like having a little conversation?
Kind of going the same way. Okay, we'll go for it. Fantastic. I love the teamwork out there. All right, so one's going to go right there. So this will be popped away for just a second.
Someone was wondering, Jason, what's the biggest sculpture you've ever made?
What's the biggest sculpture I've ever made? That's a great question. So the biggest sculpture I ever made was very similar to this, but it had I tried to fit everything in there. I was just like, okay, what kind of other coral pieces can I do? How far can I go with this? So I had different sea creatures, things like that, sharks. I had dolphins mixed in there, these seahorses, sea turtles, and just different coral and seaweed mixed in there. And it was just so busy, though. It was super busy But that was like the biggest one. I forget how big it actually was, but I'm pretty sure it was about this size, but it was definitely a little bit wider. So it definitely went a long way, but it was just so much like putting in there. I was like, I can't even concentrate on what's going on. But it's kind of cool like doing all that because you can put all these pieces and things together as you go along. Because all of it's possible. So once you pretty much put everything and it's all melted together, it's all in the end just one piece of glass. So anything is endless when it comes down to it. But I came down to kind of just keeping it a little simple, kind of sticking with one design, especially for like a sculpture reason, not to have it just too busy and things like that. But it's always fun kind of just going for it, just mixing all that stuff together. All right, so I'm putting a little little node on here, but a little kind of like a glue bit that the seahorse will be attached to, so they don't pretty much attach to the seaweed itself. Kind of also sticks it out a little bit more, gives it more of a three-dimensional look, makes it kind of just pop right out. And it also just allows us to be a lot easier to connect in the long run. But this is kind of a commit moment. So just making sure I want it where it's going to be. It's going to go right on the body. So this is, again, where that bridging goes a long way. So kind of joining them together right now. I can adjust a little bit. I have a little bit of wiggle room, a little bit of heat left. And I'm just going to focus a little bit more attention on that connection. Just kind of smooth out that glass, let the glass flow together. I actually went a little bit bigger for these seahorses because I was like, first demo, got to go big or go home, you know? So I was like, okay, let's do this. All right. So there we go. So what I'm going to do is detach this rod here. We don't need that anymore. The last part I do will be those little mermaid fins. But attaching this is very crucial. Make sure it's on there really good. I'm going to use this bit of glass that I have for the bridging. So I bridge everything. I do bridge everything. It takes a little time, you know, have to go in the back and forth, but in the end, it really saves you from things moving around. So you have to go back and fix it and adjust it. I know it's going to stay still. So now that it's all bridged up, I really got to focus my time on that connection. So as I squish it on there, you know, it's adding a lot of stress. Pretty much just kind of, the glass is like yelling. You know, it's not smoothed out. It's all got those wrinkles in it and things like that. So right now I'm kind of easing that stress, kind of taking it away, smoothing that out. And that also allows this connection to be 10 times stronger in the long run. So kind of taking it away from an acute angle to more of like a smooth, nice smooth connection. Nice groove of what I'm looking for throughout the whole piece. But doing that bridging, I'm able to really focus my time on that. There we go. And to also make this a little bit more sturdy, what I've started to do now, and I didn't do before, it was a little too fragile, is not attaching another bit of glass for the tail, because that's pretty thin, and it's also kind of just exposed. So what I like to do is add a little bit of glass in between that to kind of make a little bit of a stronger connection. So we're going to put just like a little bit of a glue bit in there.
So those of you who might have joined us a little bit late in the game, we've got Jason Hitchcock here doing his Bring the Heat live stream demonstration. Woo. So excited. First opportunity to bring him, feature him in this program here at the Corning Museum of Glass. He is one of our employees here doing demonstrations in both flameworking and glass blowing. He's got a class coming up he's going to be teaching, so check out the website. There's all kinds of listings for our fall offerings and winter offerings in classes, but we're really excited to have him featured as one of our teachers this year as well. You can also check out his Etsy page, Jason Hitchcock Glass. He has a lot of really lovely objects that he's been making there for sale, of course.
Thanks, Helen.
Sure, of course. You got to plug it. You got to plug it.
Yeah. So this is, I don't know if we can get a close shot of this. So you can see that difference. It's a total different seahorse. Look at that. I got the, look at that. They're like exact same size.
Yeah.
I didn't plan that. I didn't plan that at all.
Just comes naturally.
Yeah, it does. But yeah, those are the true colors of what this is really going to pop out to be once it's fully cooled down and annealed. So it's pretty exciting the way these colors pop. So they're one of my favorites. So making them face each other. Kind of want to go a little bit higher. So I know it's going to go on that one. So I'm just going to pop this away for just 1 second. So going back and forth, but getting a plan is really useful and helpful along the way. Also makes the process go very smoothly. Sometimes when you don't have that plan, you kind of build up a lot of stress. You're like kind of flustered, not knowing what to do.
It's always nice to have that glass babysitter over here to put parts away, give you a second to think about it.
Yeah, yeah. And it's always nice you can like, yeah, put it away for a second and kind of just like chill. Like, okay, get a sip of water or something. And then come right back to it. Some projects that people make with borosilicate glass, they can take days because they're able to kind of bring it in and out of that oven. They don't have to get completed all at once. So something like this, you know, I will have to come back to it because I actually leave a little bit of a glass rod, which will be going into that piece right there. So I will come back to this. I won't do that part just yet. I'll leave this handle on here. So that'll be the last thing, which will be tomorrow or sometime down the road there. But yeah, that's always having a plan. But fun fact with these glass rods, drill bits, there's a drill bit that actually matches the diameter of these glass rods, if that's important or not. But I found that out, and I was super excited where, yeah, you can just drill a hole right into that thing. And lava rocks are actually really easy to drill into. And yeah, I can stick it right in there.
I always think that mounting and finishing projects like this are one of the most challenging aspects of it. So being able to plan ahead, leave that little bit of extra glass that you know that will fit down into the rock, or
yeah,
even the structure of, you know, if you were just making a seahorse, he'd just fall on the table. But putting this beautiful structure around him gives him an environment. I'm a big fan of putting your creatures in an environment to help support them for their display.
Yeah, I thought it was a good mix just with lava rock and glass.
Yeah, it looks great.
Yeah, good, a little bit of mixed media thing going on. Sometimes I do like a glass base for it, but I've noticed that, yeah, I kind of just like where it's just like that. It's just the main kind of focus to it, but the bases are a lot, they're strong, they're sturdy, they weight a little bit more, so that's worked out. I've also used it like driftwood and things like that. But yeah, that lava rock kind of intertwines with just glass a little bit, I like to think. And yeah, it works out. All right, so here we go. Second one.
So in addition to his individual sites selling things, we also have a wonderful shop here at the Corning Museum of Glass that sells a lot of work from local and regional artists. They've done an extra push towards supporting the local artists, especially in this very challenging past year and a half. So we're really excited to have that be a feature here at the museum as well. So you can check online, or you can come here in person and see the kind of things that are available. But Jason does have a few beautiful sculptures available, I do believe now, and if not now, should in the future. So keep an eye out for that as well. This will just be the beginning of that delve into supporting us and us supporting him.
Thanks, Helen.
Mm-hmm. We're in the height of pumpkin season, of course, around here at the museum as well. So there's lots of holiday things that are coming up for sale. It's always something for everybody.
Always something. That's right. All right, so I'm just going to quickly bridge this up. Don't want to take too much time, like letting that sit there and cool down just with that stress. Sometimes when the glass has stress in it and you come back with a hot flame, that can be a cause of cracking and breaking along the way. So try to quickly bridge this up. I'm just going to do it right on the tail because I can kind of put that to a point as well. Hands are getting sweaty.
And you'll have a pretty good view of this piece at the end of this process, but we'll also put an image with this video that will eventually go up onto our YouTube channel as well. So any of our live streams, we always document the final piece and add that into the end of the video, so you can always come back and watch those online. Usually takes a week or two to get it up onto the website and onto the YouTube channel. But it'll eventually get there, and always have a good look at these beautiful pieces that are made during the live streams.
All right, so I'm going to get one more attachment right on the bottom here, just for this tail. How are we doing with questions? Anybody have questions so far? Everyone's just jaws are dropped. They don't. All right.
It's always stunned silence. Well, we wanted to give I told you I'd give a shout out to your brothers, see if they're watching here today. Matt, Joe, Andrew, and Ben. Are you tuned in?
Is the fam in here?
The fam tuned in? But
maybe. Mom, Dad, hi.
But again, definitely check out the website. You can find listings for the class Jason will be teaching here soon. You're teaching a couple different techniques during that class, right?
Sorry?
You've got a weekend class and a longer class, you said?
Yeah, so the 10-week is happening right now. What's available is that weekend class, which will happen on the 16th and the 17th, so both those days. So kind of like all day, 9 to 4.
Immersion in the process. It's always the best way to learn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one kind of popped off of the bridging there, but we're all right. Looks like it got a little too cold, a little stressed. If we want to just pop off, that's all right. We'll get that reinforced here. These tips for the seaweed will be finalized once I take all the bridging off. So yeah, again, this is just temporary for right now. But yeah, we're gonna get these little mermaid tail here, a little tail for it. Did you ask how much it costs?
Yeah, we get a question online. How much does it cost to get started in glass? And
Good question.
Yeah,
That's a very good question.
It's not necessarily a cheap activity, but I think that torch working is a really approachable, cost-effective way of learning the process.
It really is. With torch working, I was able to get my studio set up. You can kind of see the space I'm in, so you don't really need a lot of space to do it. And I started really small. I mean, the most expensive thing was probably this torch right here. So I got the Carlisle CC. There's other torches that are a little bit more inexpensive, a little bit cheaper than this one. So it depends on what kind of work you want to do. But this one, I just kind of fell in love because it's what I learned with. And it also does everything I need to do, small or big. And then, yeah, I kind of just started small. So I got a little bit of clear glass, a little bit of color, like some tweezers, which you can find anywhere. You can find these anywhere. And your striking tool, which, yeah, you need the striker to get that lit up, and then you're good to go. And propane and oxygen. So oxygen kind of goes up along the way, but, you know, propane tank, it's a normal grill tank. So, you know, if you're not grilling that day, you can flame work that day. Or if you can do both. You can grill and then flame work in the afternoon.
And that's one of the really nice things about going and taking a class, whether you're coming to the Corning Museum of Glass, the studio of the Corning Museum of Glass, or look up your local region. There's lots of shops that teach classes as well. So it's a great way to just give it a try and see if it's something that you would like to invest further in, whether to take further classes or to start to buy the equipment and support your own interests. But there's anywhere from a one-day workshop or a 45-minute experience all the way to a 2-week intensive. There's classes all over the country, all over the world, and lots of amazing artists just itching to share what they love with the community around them.
All right, so getting these tails on here. Kind of a tight squeeze to get in there, but we'll get it done. So just balling up a little bit. And using the different style of crimps there, it's getting a little bit of texture. And that's wonderful for the fins and things like that, to get those lines in there and that texture. Get that kind of like a fin look to it. It's one of my best favorite tools for this process. So getting that to kind of just cool down for a second, and I can adjust my flame. That was a little bit of a tricky angle right there. Sometimes I wish I was ambidextrous a little bit.
While Jason is cleaning up some of these parts, I want to also pop in and just remind everybody that we've got our You Design It program starting back up this fall. And this is a great opportunity for you to make an image out of that you think would be amazing in glass. It's a program that we've been doing for a very, very long time, but last year we opened it up to online submissions. It used to be something you had to be here at the museum, draw your picture, submit it, and we choose one of those drawings to make out of glass. So last year we opened it up to the wider community, and we had a great response. And so we just started that back up. Our next one's going to be October 17th, and the theme is Amazing Androids. So making your own friendly android, but you can check out all of the upcoming themes and the dates for those You Design It's, and generally the drawings will be due a few days prior to that actual live stream. We'll choose our object, and then we'll contact the winner, and they can either come to the museum to watch it or tune in online, and then they can take that piece home with them as well. It's a great creative endeavor for our team, challenging, making things that we usually have never made before. So it's a really exciting program, not only for our guests, but also for the team here at the Corning Museum of Glass. So definitely check those out.
All right, so we're in the final steps here. So just taking all these bridges off as we go along. So this is kind of just removing the mess off of these on the way. This is one of my favorite parts, is kind of revealing the whole true piece of this, because it just looks so busy, and then when you take all these off, it's like a whole new piece in the end. So the mouth for the seahorses, I'm going to use that butter knife. That'll be the one last tool to use. But, you know, that's another not so expensive tool that you can find anywhere. It's getting these tools really. Yeah, if you ever want to get into this, what I did, and someone introduced this to me, it was kind of like the starter kits. They have those different online shops of, if you look up flame working tools or setting up a flame working kind of like on your own of like how to do it or what you need, they will give you those starter kits. So some of the things I didn't know I needed, like even regulators, I was like, oh, I didn't know why you needed regulators. But you kind of have to adjust your settings to know how much gas to use, know how much oxygen you use, things like that. Yeah, they had great starter kits. So the starter kit for this one, they got the Carlisle. They have other ones. So they have ones for like bead making, ones, for certain projects that you want to kind of focus on, that you're not too sure of. But I'd like for this one, it kind of, you know, as you start small, you can also work bigger with this torch as well. And, you know, with the glass and everything, it's really safe to do on your own. You know, as I set everything down on my bench, I know what's hot, what's not. It's the same kind of like in your kitchen, things like that. All the tools are on my right side because my dominant hand. So everything I know will be on that side. Even the hot part is just facing away. So even when I'm not looking, I can reach down. I know that part's not hot. So getting burned happens in the beginning, but yeah, you kind of just learn from it as you go. You get burned once, you're like, okay, let's not do that again. All right. So the kissy face, here it is. But there we have it. It's right there. Yeah. So I'm going to finish up some of these points here in a second, but yeah, thanks for joining everybody. It's been an adventure. It's been wonderful having everybody online. Thanks for coming on out and joining the show, but I appreciate you all coming out to watch us. Not just me. Yeah, it's been great. Thank you, Helen, as well. It's been a great
pleasure.
team effort. But,
Great job.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Beautiful.
Appreciate it. Yeah. Thank you. We did it. We did it.
We did it.
Yeah. Mom, we did it. I'm just going to stretch these out a little bit longer, and then I'll pop it away into the other. So yeah, the next thing will just be taking off a little bit of that rod and then sticking it into a base. All right, there we go. Awesome. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it, everybody. Thanks.